Right now, the pathway through a healthcare system for somebody with dementia is a journey. It's a nightmare, just like it is for anybody with any complicated chronic disease.
He's right. This is Dr. Alan Levy, head of the Emory Goizueta Brain Health Institute.
It's really tragic because most people still get delayed diagnosis, no diagnosis. Rural America, underrepresented minorities, there's such poor access to healthcare that's number one.
The plan to end excruciating wait times and delayed diagnoses and treatments is by using artificial intelligence overseen by humans. We're going to hear from 4 leaders in AI and Alzheimer's research who are going to paint a picture of how AI could do away with healthcare bottlenecks and lost time that can make it too late to receive treatment. Let's start at the beginning.
So we are in the Coda building. The Coda building is in Midtown Atlanta. It's like, I like to say it's the temple of AI. So we are funded by the National Science Foundation. We are one of the 27 AI institutes across the country.
Pascal Van Henterik is the director of the National Science Foundation Artificial Intelligence Institute for Advances in Optimization.
This is one of the labs that we have.
My name is Pascal Van Henterik.
And the head of Tech AI, the AI hub at Georgia Tech.
So this is part of AI for mobility.
Van Henterik and his team have a heavy lift in this massive endeavor in collaboration with Emory to improve and accelerate access to assessment, diagnosis, and treatment.
We'll do this much faster, right? So the time now to get an appointment is around a year. It's going to be around 14 months. It's like, in the next 10, 20 years. So it's not acceptable. So if you don't change the system, people are not going to be diagnosed early enough. So you need to change the way the system is working. And I think the really huge opportunity that we have is that AI can give you that aspect of it.
Van Henterik and his team will use large language models, which is where AI learns billions of pages of information on a certain topic. After it learns this massive amount of data, it can answer questions, summarize information, and engage in conversations.
I think we want to show you the workflow.
In the case of Van Henterik's research, the focus is training AI on decades of patient data.
What we need to do is take a lot of data, as much data as we can from patients over the last 30 years. So once we have that body of knowledge, we want to use generative AI. So this is the technology which is in large language model. And we want that technology to generate synthetic patients. These synthetic patients are going to give us, we can generate now artificial patients, think of virtual patients that can help us envision how to make the system work effectively. Because now we can simulate the system at very large scale with patients that are really modeling what the disease is going to do.
These artificial patients will talk with AI conversational agents, chatbots, in order to help doctors identify which of them could benefit from medication early in the disease progression. These artificial patients, created from real-life data, will also help Van Henterik and his team learn the problem spots, the bottlenecks, the slowdowns that jeopardize care. Then, partnering AI with physicians, they'll create a new path forward to speed the process along. AI will be crucial at every step of the way, including the beginning.
Let's begin. Can you tell me what brings you in today?
Yeah, I've been more and more concerned about my memory.
Drew Breithaupt is an Emory cognitive neurologist and clinical researcher who is exploring how artificial intelligence can enhance care delivery.
Before, I was misplacing my keys.
And he's talking to a conversational agent.
Have you found yourself forgetting events, like appointments or meetups with friends or family?
There have been some times where my son talks about us having coffee. Usually this is 2 or 3 weeks ago, and sometimes I really struggle to remember.
Noticing gaps in memory, especially with events from just a few weeks ago, can be frustrating.
The conversational agents are becoming advanced and good at their jobs.
The words that it puts together are very understandable. It can explain complicated topics, including complicated medical topics, in a way that's easy to understand. It can adjust to a patient's level of education. It can also speak to a patient in a very inviting and empathetic manner. And when people are blinded to what ChatGPT is saying to them in medical terms and what a physician is saying to them in medical terms, people prefer ChatGPT.
Has this happened more than once?
Conversational agents can interview, gather information and data, create a summary for the doctor, and maybe even a suggested diagnosis based on this information.
We'll work together to understand what's going on and find the best way to help you.
Physicians everywhere are struggling to find the time to ask the questions they need to ask for some of these more complex conditions. There have been some times where
There's a lot of research into how AI can assist with diagnosis using the patient's speech, how long it takes them to respond, how they use or forget words or repeat themselves. All of this can be done before the doctor ever sees the patient.
I am wowed by some of its abilities that I can see right in front of my eyes with being able to make complex diagnoses that took me 10 years to learn in training. That was another gut punch.
Then there are self-administered AI tests.
It could be using their smartphone, could be taking a formal test on a laptop or an iPad. You know, AI is enabling us to very rapidly develop tools that people don't mind doing that will give great insights into their cognition.
Tap the start button when you are ready to begin.
Tests like the Linus app provide cognitive testing for patients on iPads in their physician's office, including scoring how well they do. This is another way to determine who needs more testing or to be referred to a neurologist.
Like I'm doing now, I'm looking into this camera and it's looking at where my eyes are. We look at that.
Researcher Gary Clifford wears a lot of hats.
Well, I'm a physicist who became an engineer, who became a informaticist working on developing and applying artificial intelligence and signal processing to anything in healthcare.
Clifford and his team have created an eye tracking app for cognitive decline. People are shown a series of pictures and a camera tracks where their eyes focus on the screen.
We provide them different images and we use the webcam on the iPad to track what they're looking at in the image. And then we show them a series of images, and then we delete or add something to those images in a very subtle way. And if you're slightly cognitively impaired, you are less likely to notice those changes.
The goal of the app is to put it into broader use at clinics.
Nothing really, as I say.
Clifford is also using AI to help detect depression, a common symptom in those with cognitive decline.
I used to go out with my friends.
Clifford and his team discovered that changes in the brain when someone is depressed correlate to subtle changes in facial expression, and that AI can accurately detect if someone is depressed.
We know that just gait alone, the way that you walk.
And then there is how people move when they have cognitive decline. Clifford and his team installed cameras in the ceiling of the Cognitive Empowerment Program space at Emory. The program is for people in the early stages of cognitive decline and for their care partners.
Every single one of these cameras is running digitization and analysis algorithms in real time. We put them in the ceiling in an unobtrusive way so that we can monitor everybody's movements within the space, because what we're looking for is how do people interact with each other? Do they socialize? Because we know that social interactions start to diminish when you become cognitively impaired. And what we're looking for is whether the therapies are leading to increased social activity. So what we're looking at here is a heat map of just where everybody spends their time.
The cameras have computers attached. Using AI, they run real-time stick figure digitization.
You don't even need somebody having a wearable. You don't need them to sit on a call. They don't have to be actually interacting with the clinician themselves. They can just be walking around this space, and just from the way that they walk around the space, we can identify their level of cognitive impairment.
Let's just focus on what we have to do. Explainability really is important. It goes back to what I was saying last time. I've always been a biomedical engineer, but my interest in biomedical engineering is development and application of artificial intelligence, or AI, and machine learning algorithms to address problems in healthcare and medicine. Think of it also in terms of proportionality.
Anat Matabushi is the founding director of the Emory Empathetic AI for Health Institute.
These are some of the results on the...
What Matabushi and his team have discovered could change how and when people are diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease.
For progression-free survival.
And the answer is in our eyes.
We're going to be looking at images of the eyes, what the machine learning algorithms are looking for. They're looking for subtle cues that reflect the differences in the twistedness, the tortuosity, the angularity, the branching patterns of the vasculature in the eye. And it learns that there are differences, significant differences, in those patients that have Alzheimer's from those who don't.
Matabushi and his team used machine learning to train AI on the vasculature of the eye.
And just by repeatedly showing the machine learning algorithm several examples of the vasculature in Alzheimer's patients and in patients who don't have Alzheimer's, the machine learning algorithm is able to find those specific features that are different between the Alzheimer's and non-Alzheimer's patients. Looking at almost 1,400 patients from within the Emory Brain Health Institute, looking at images of the eye, we've been able to demonstrate that we can find with a high fidelity, a high accuracy, which patients have Alzheimer's versus those patients who don't. Being able to connect the oculomic patterns.
How AI can determine who has Alzheimer's or not has to do with the differences in the appearance of the vasculature in the eye.
Vessels in the eye in Alzheimer's end up looking more twisted, more tortuous. These are very subtle patterns. These are patterns where if you're visually looking at it, you may not be able to truly discern the more chaotic arrangement, the more chaotic architecture. But that's where the machine learning algorithm basically helps.
The goal is to use AI to diagnose people as early as possible so they can begin treatment, and to also use it to identify early on if treatment is or isn't working. PET scans and MRIs are expensive and not always available in rural America. An inexpensive, non-invasive eye exam could provide answers. Matabushi's team is seeing that if the treatment is working, the vessels of the eye will begin to look normal again, less twisted and tortuous. If the vessels don't improve, then the treatment isn't working. These new medications can be a huge financial burden, and halting treatment that isn't working will give someone a chance to try another treatment without losing even more time and money.
I think AI is going to be an essential partner to the humans to devise new care models.
The decades-long journey to cure Alzheimer's disease is evolving. Technology is more than a tool, it's a partner, pursuing a future where memories are no longer lost.